Why do you need to secure the robots.txt?
Oh, that is a bit technical and hard to explain.
Okay.
But essentially, I'm going to give a simplified version that every website has a kind of file that it sends to Google what it wants Google to read and what it doesn't want it to read. Why that's of interest to, say, a hacker is if we figure out what you're trying to hide, that's maybe the first place we'll look. You know, we're not going to look in the About Us section. We're going to look in the sections that maybe you've told Google not to crawl and not to publish.
G'day and welcome to the Choosing Your Uni podcast. I'm your host, Rob Malicki, coming to you today from Whadjuk Noongar country in Perth, Western Australia. And I'm on the extraordinarily beautiful campus of Edith Cowan University. We're at the Joondalup campus. And this is an institution that is always doing some really interesting things. And I'm joined today by Elliott, who's a current student here at Edith Cowan. Elliott, thanks for joining me on the Choosing Your Uni podcast.
Not a problem. Happy to be here.
Great to have you. And perhaps we can start by talking about your degree area. You're studying cybercrime, is that right?
Yeah, so I'm doing a dual degree called the Bachelor of Cybercrime, Security and Intelligence. So it's between Edith Cowan University, but also the University of Portsmouth in the UK. So I will do 2 years here, which I'm just about to complete. Do 1 year abroad in the University of Portsmouth. And then I'll come back for 1 semester to finish off.
I can't wait to explore this because the dual degree options here at Edith Cowan, the best in Australia, full stop. I've been in this sort of international education space for decades, and this is the best, so I can't wait to unpack that. But maybe by way of sort of getting into that conversation, what sort of sparked your interest in cybercrime to begin with?
So I take it back to early childhood. I have quite an interesting geographical background where I had a Spanish mother, an Italian father, but I grew up the first 10-ish years of my life in England, traveling between Spain and Italy quite frequently. So language has always been very crucial to how I understood the world. And there is actually interesting parallelisms to learning a language and learning a programming language. They both feature the art of communication, one to a person and one more so to a computer. And I just kind of fell in love with that process of, you know, really providing instructions and seeing them kind of be fulfilled by technological capabilities that I couldn't do myself. You know, started off very simple in just animation and basic game design. It wasn't until much later that those skills that I developed were shown to me could be really useful in a security perspective, as well as just fun and games.
Do you remember the moment where suddenly the sort of crime element came into things, like the cybercrime? Or...
Yeah, so I went to John Curtin High School in Fremantle, and there was a teacher there who noticed my ability to code and also to present information, and saw a really good opportunity, kind of forced me in to the cybersecurity space. And yeah, that was just a real game changer because it came from becoming something that I just enjoyed to realizing something that had a lot of potential career-wise, but also just in terms of, you know, international application. You know, the computers are everywhere now, and they became a real strong part of me that just wanted to ensure that they were able to be used properly. Because, you know, we've seen, even back when I think I was only 12, it was very apparent to me that technology can sometimes do more harm than good, not just in weaponry, but in scams and in hacking and other kinds of violations of privacy. And I just really wanted to create a space where I could provide some sort of sense of trust or consistency among, you know, end users and technologies, so that everyone could kind of see why I enjoyed technology so much.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And the world's changed so much. It must feel kind of cool now being in this area, which is just exploding in importance, right?
Yeah, it definitely has. You know, I've grown up with computers all my life, but they only get more and more powerful and more advanced. And we're going into quantum now, and we're going into supercomputing ages. And, you know, I'm just excited to see where it ends up.
Funny little aside there for those people listening along. We just had to take a short break because my business partner was having issues with a two-factor authentication login, which is quite ironic when we're talking about cybersecurity and how much the world has changed. So, Elliott, how did you end up decide to come to Edith Cowan then?
So I've been a part of ECU's extracurricular for quite a long time. They are probably the leading university in cybersecurity in Western Australia. They are the main host for the national hacking competition, which is called PECAN. And I think I participated first in year 8 and then every year since then, because it's a national hacking competition for high schoolers, where they really teach you and put you to the test. So yeah, I remember competing in that since about year 8, and now I was actually part of running it, facilitating both the education and running it on the day. I knew early on that I wanted to come here. Not that there aren't other good cybersecurity places. I'm not trying to diminish the reputation of any other university, but I think it's very apparent that Edith Cowan has been head of the space for quite some time.
Can you tell me more about that hacking competition experience? So for somebody that has never participated in one or doesn't know what it's like, talk me through it.
Yeah, so one of the main challenges that you'll find when it comes to learning cybersecurity is the restrictions in place to your learning are really annoying. You can't just hack into things for fun and then...
You can see the challenge in that.
Yeah, you go into the bank, you try some ethical hacking or non-ethical hacking, and then, it's pretty hard to explain to the authorities that you were just trying to learn. So we create test environments where it's, we give you permission to take these fake websites down, not so much expose any sensitive information, but practice the mechanism that maybe we call them black hat hackers, people that would be doing this without permission would use. So it teaches us what to look out for when we're assessing a website. Have we secured the robots.txt file? Without going in too much into the technical, they'll give you a challenge where it's called a capture the flag competition, where you're looking for a particular string of text that is a flag worth a point if you can find it.
I'm with you.
And they'll just present to you some sort of a page or a file or text that conceals that flag, and you'll need to do some sort of cybersecurity skill or practice in order to decipher that or decode that message in order to find the flag.
This is really getting me curious. I'm getting excited about it. That sounds like a heck of a lot of fun.
It is absolute blast. I'd highly recommend anyone, even if you're not doing cyber. Many of the students that participated weren't. It's entirely learnable in just the 2 days. Obviously, if you want to win, you might want to put in some more practice and things. But yeah, when I was first exposed to it, I only really had a coding background. Nothing was cybersecurity focused, but cryptography I thought was, right up my alley. That's the art of taking plain text, something that's legible, readable, like plain English, turning into something that only someone who knows the process can understand. And if you look at the history of that, all the way since the Roman Empire, people have been using those kind of language ciphering techniques, and that was just right up my alley because it was the perfect cross between language, cyber, information. It all kind of came together.
Maybe this is too niche for people listening, but I'm curious. Why do you need to secure the robots.txt?
Oh, that is a bit technical and hard to explain.
Okay.
But essentially, I'm going to give a simplified version that every website has a kind of file that it sends to Google what it wants Google to read and what it doesn't want it to read. Why that's of interest to, say, a hacker is if we figure out what you're trying to hide, that's maybe the first place we'll look. We're not going to look in the About Us section. We're going to look in the sections that maybe you've told Google not to crawl and not to publish.
That's very interesting. Yeah, wow.
A simplified version.
No, I love it. I've just really learned something there. So having been involved with, interacting with this institution for many years before you actually arrived here, what was it like actually arriving on campus to start here as an undergrad student?
It just felt very normal. I almost couldn't tell the difference. I walked here on the weekends all the time. So now I was going, other than, finding classrooms for the first time that I'd never been in, it was very much like, I guess, a little bit less nerve-wracking than it might have been for other students because I knew where everything, knew where the cafe was, knew where the library was. It felt pretty good.
What are some of the things that you discovered after starting here as a full-time student that you hadn't realised in those kind of experiences leading up to starting here?
As in to the top, as in cybersecurity, or as in more the university?
Oh, both. Let's just go both, yeah.
I mean, I guess before I didn't... It's kind of like every high schooler, I think, will come into this. They see the difference between the style of education at a university institution compared to high school. Nobody's really following you up, watching you over your shoulder, making sure you do. It's all a very self-driven thing. They don't really care if you... Well, no, I'm not going to say don't care, but, they let you fail and will only help you pass that assignment deadline to make sure that you're not coddled into thinking a particular way. It's let's see how you approach this problem, and regardless of what your output is to that problem, you'll receive feedback not based on whether or not you met a specific criteria, but they kind of judge your approach more. Obviously, you have to keep in mind things like academic language was a big one for me. The language that we use in high school compared to university is a bit of a difference. They really want you to back everything that you say with evidence, and the referencing style is a lot harsher than maybe it was in high school. But for the most part, the education style was really learning, I've got to do these readings in my own time, and I've got to learn to balance my time more effectively, rather than the teacher saying, this is what we'll be reading today, this is the next thing, do this. It's there for you to find. And also, you've got all the text in the world to make your point. They let you choose whatever you can access, whatever you want to use. You're only judged on, how credible is your source, kind of thing, more so than it has to be this text.
Absolutely. Who do you think would be well suited to doing cybercrime? What kind of personality? Or maybe let me reframe that, and you take whichever direction on it you want. But if someone's considering it, how would they identify that it's a good fit for them?
It's quite a broad field. One of my lecturers made this point very clearly. We're looking for as many different personalities as possible. You have 10 people that think the exact same way. You're not going to find all the solutions or possibly the best solution to the problem. Having people that have had different experiences, because security is, it's paramount in many ways, that that you're not ignorant of a particular threat. And having people that come from different backgrounds is a really big part, ensuring that you have as wide a scope possible when it comes to those kinds of things. So yeah, I don't think there's a set personality. I think maybe you have to, if you really want to excel, you have to be comfortable in not necessarily finding, oddly enough, kind of consistency between everything. You have to treat every new assignment as an entirely different topic, even if they're both buildings, maybe they have different functions, even if, some of the threats are pretty universal. No matter what, you might want to consider cultural differences, because a lot of the work we do is not just cybersecurity or security in Australia, but all over the world. So you have to be really comfortable with just kind of abandoning everything at the door, starting fresh, researching what you think is relevant to the point, and then saying, okay, this is my solution based on what I have. A big part is saying, intelligence is only good if it's on time.
That's a great expression.
So when you make this report, when you make this assessment, it's based on what you had available, and no one's expecting you to be industry level straight from day one. Yeah. It just gradually gets harder and harder, where you'll be criticized a bit more for your solutions.
As you're talking there, I can see how that parallels nicely with your interest in languages and culture, and having traveled as a young person. Like, I can see how you can see those pieces and how important they are in the context of the industry in terms of cyber, right? Because it is so broad and everyone's approaching these things from a different perspective. So having those different angles is an advantage.
We often say the more angles you can tackle a problem from, the better your solution will be in the end.
Of course, there's different strands to computer systems, IT, cyber. They kind of look like they're all in the same space, but they're in fact very, very different when it comes to how those degrees unfold, and then the work that comes later. Do you have some advice maybe for people that are trying to make the choice between one of those strands in the sort of IT space?
Yeah, I definitely, every time I explain my course to, just a stranger who's interested, they always seem to default to, oh, you're doing software engineering. It's a very common misconception about all the computer courses being some kind of software engineering degree. And that's actually very different to what I study. I do still enjoy it, but it is obviously something that's not included in my studies. So my main advice is, before you select a course, I think it's of paramount importance that you look at every unit you'll be doing before you enter that course. It's fascinating to me that some people who have been in my class have like, oh, really? We do this in this course? And I was like, as politely as possible, did you read the course outline before you came here? Because if you didn't want to do that course, if you found an entire semester had nothing that you wanted to do, probably indicates a lack of foresight when you were selecting the course. And it happens, it's allowed to happen, especially if you misunderstood maybe what the course entails. But if you really want to find the differences between the various strands, it has to be, look at the course outline, see what units you're going to do, what times, what those goes, what type of assessments you're going to follow. If you were surprised by how much theory or conversely how much practical is in a course, that maybe indicates you didn't have a look ahead of time. If you're really looking for a practical side, choose a university that's got as much practical units in it as possible. Conversely, if you want the mathematics side to it, you want to choose a unit that does that. Oh, and I didn't mention this, but it's only just occurred to me, because part of the extracurriculars that we have here, and I'm sure it must exist at other universities, is we have clubs that students run, that we get funding from our student guild to go and do. We kind of reignited one recently that is specifically for security and intelligence style courses called ISA, and there's another one called CASA, which is more for the computing, the software engineering, the straight cyber courses. There's no reason that even if you're not a student, you can't join. And we provide immense amount of testimonials and first-hand experience from what our courses are like to high school students or to mature age students that are looking to get into those industries. So you can find out pretty quickly, and we're often pretty blatant, kind of polishing my language here because I know it's being videoed. Yeah, you can definitely see what people think about their courses, about what kind of studies they've done, how the assignments went. Directly, we're just on Discord. CASA's on Discord. I assume every university has some sort of a platform which will actually let you talk to a student who's doing a unit. So yeah, it's just a great opportunity now that I think about it. Regardless of whether you're halfway across the world or not, we will provide solid advice and experience as to what our course was like. And as much as I love ECU and I promote it to as much as I can, I'm very aware of the fact that it's not the right university for everyone, and you'll want to get a good understanding of what a course is like before you submit 3 to 4 years of your life studying it.
Really good advice. So for those people listening along, the way to do that is to Google whichever university you're interested in studying at, the name of the degree, find the outline of the degree which explains the various subjects. And this is for every degree. It's not specifically for cyber, but it's just a really great mechanism for you to go and see the detail of what goes into a particular program. And that really helps you understand, just like you're saying, Elliott, doesn't it? It really helps you understand whether or not this might actually suit you or not. So a little bit of research required, but as you've said, could save you a bit of time downstream.
It's a big commitment university, and I don't take it lightly. My studies, I really want to get the best experience I can here for both me and for my other students, because that's why we're putting so much of our time, effort, and ultimately money into coming here. The opportunity is here. It does require a bit of effort to fully make the most of it,
but you get out what you put in.
Exactly.
You get out what you put in.
I cannot say how much, I cannot express just how much this is enlined in various ways, and there's a lot of jargon, a lot of kind of upper kind of conversations that happen that may be a bit difficult to understand. We will break down any terminology that might come across a bit of confusing or backwards to someone who hasn't seen it before. So yeah, if you do put in that effort to research what it is, you'll find there's opportunities you didn't even realize were here. You can find testimonials from both us and from the Portsmouth students and the Japanese students that have come over, and you'll begin to see just how interconnected everything is. I cannot promote academia enough. People both in the science discipline and in every other discipline I can find. It is a worthwhile endeavor. If, I'm not saying it's for everyone, but there's definitely an advantage to coming here and trying to put in as much effort as you can.
Let's talk more about the university. What else do you love about... So you're here at the Joondalup campus,
yes,
which at time of recording is still the main campus of Edith Cowan, but of course the institution is right in the middle of creating a world-class, state-of-the-art campus down in the middle of the CBD of Perth, scheduled to open in 2026. Mm-hmm. And of course, once that's open, we'll be down there for Choosing Your Uni to check it out and get under the hood of that campus. But what about this campus here? What do you like about this campus?
I mean, it's not necessarily just this campus. It's the university's focus on outreach, both to students and to other institutions, companies. I've managed to find part-time work through this university that was, fit around my studies. They said, when do you have classes? You can work when you don't. And that was, I think, one of the biggest, I suppose that was the revealing moment when I was like, yeah, this is a good university. They were able to find those opportunities. Obviously, we have the connection with Portsmouth, which is where I'm going, but also next Thursday, I will be leaving for Japan to visit a university in Tokyo where I'll be doing a short exchange. So really, the opportunities that are here, and that's why you choose a university, but I'm sure you've covered this a lot. University can be expensive, and the reason you go there is to find opportunities, tools, people that you wouldn't be able to elsewhere. That's the point of, getting that piece of paper at the end that says you went through these challenges, and just the commitment to not just trapping a student inside this campus, but actually letting them go outside, both in work and academia, is why maybe privilege this university in my options over other universities.
I'm really keen to get to the Portsmouth dual degree option, but you did mention going to Japan. Out of curiosity, New Colombo plan funded? Or?
Yes. So it's all government funded. So I'm not paying, well, it's Yeah.
You're getting a contribution.
I'm getting a
towards that.
contribution towards that, which covers just about everything you need from the travel to the accommodation to all that. It's only really activities that, and I'm sure I will be doing activities outside of the study that I'll pay for. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. It really fits into my love of learning languages. I've been practicing Japanese for that as well. And it's just such an advantage when you can go to another country, speak a little bit their language and really have them contribute their experiences that you definitely couldn't find here. I guess I just love traveling. I love the learning the language, the seeing things from a different perspective, and it ties really nicely into the end degree of tackling a problem from as many different angles as possible. Even if it's not directly related to cyber, part of academia is realizing that fields are multidisciplinary. You need that kind of global leadership if you really want to excel in any kind of modern field.
For those people listening along, the New Colombo Plan is an Australian government program. I actually helped to design that.
Oh, really?
Back in 2013. Yeah, Julie Bishop called me up and said, hey, you're the sort of preeminent learning abroad guy in Australia. Can you help me design this program?
Thank you very much.
Oh, mate, like great pleasure. That's why I get so excited when I see, and you're getting this incredible opportunity to go out to somewhere. You're going to Japan, but the New Colombo Plan assists students to study in the Indo-Pacific, to build those relationships, build that knowledge, cultural knowledge, technical knowledge, relationships between Australia and the rest of our region. So an incredible program. Google it, New Colombo Plan. Every uni in the country does have options available, but they vary. So here at ECU, clearly cyber is an option for students to go to Japan. Other unis will have different options. So definitely check that out. Let's get to Portsmouth and the dual degree program. So what you explained a little bit earlier was you're doing your 2 years here, off to Portsmouth for a year, and then back here for 6 months. And at the end of that, you end up with 2 degrees, one from each year. That just sounds ridiculously awesome.
Tell me more. Yeah, it was one of the main attractions to this course specifically, rather than doing straight cyber. Incorporating the physical elements as well. So Portsmouth mainly deals with the straight-on cyber. A lot of what we do here is based on the physical, the building management systems, the law as well. We're doing a law unit at the moment about the legislation that we may encounter in the industry, which is very important. So we've had Portsmouth students come over here and they kind of explain, Portsmouth is an island city. The university there and the students make up about 10% of the population on that island. So it's almost an education island. It's a really good opportunity to study over there because not only are most of the people there that you'll encounter students, but there's also great opportunities for students to learn. The jobs there are very understanding that most of their intake is going to be students. They fit around the timetables well. The university itself has great ties with just a lot of universities now that I think about it. Portsmouth, I'm not sure how much you know about the city, but you can definitely find out a lot online. The halls of residence look amazing. The actual program, you'll go into all sorts of things like gender and crime. You'll be able to see kind of a lot more of the technical aspects. They're very close to a navy. They've got all sorts of tools and labs. I'm not saying you can't find anywhere, but it's definitely good to expand horizons. Obviously, I haven't been there yet, so I'm kind of limited into what I can talk about, but I can tell you that I'm excited.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, and look, every university in Australia will have a student exchange program where you can go away for 6 months or 12 months to study at a uni overseas. What's really unique, and there are also some dual degree programs as well between Australian universities and universities around the world, but what I love about ECU's program is just how close that connection is with Portsmouth. If you Google ECU dual degrees, you'll find the page that has the current list of degree options that are available, but for essentially extending, if I can put that in inverted commas, extending your degree by 6 months, you end up with a second degree from another exceptional university on the other side of the world. I think, Elliott, what you've been talking about, this opportunity to expand your horizons, really experience another culture, to understand the way that different people, different cultures approach the problems in your particular discipline area from a career perspective, that's just invaluable.
Yeah, and they make a real effort not to double up on content. That was one of my main concerns, would I be doing the same degree just over a longer period? But no, they've said they've chosen the units specifically so that there isn't any overlap. So speaking to some of the Portsmouth students, I've known that our assessment styles very different. They tend to favour longer assignments that you have more time to work on, as well as we tend to prefer short, fast, consistently outputting, assessment. And it'll be really interesting to go through both. And also they have a much higher emphasis on practical, as we have a much higher emphasis on theoretical. But going between both of those institutions gives you the the best of both worlds in the shortest amount of times with twice, in theory, the qualification.
Just coming back to studying here at ECU, was there something that surprised you about study? You know, when you started to study here, feel free to take a moment to think about it. And it could be anything at all. Like, it could be in the degree that you chose. You're like, oh, wow, I never knew I'd learned that. Or something about the campus, the institution as a whole, an opportunity. You're like, suddenly like, holy smokes, I can't believe they give us this. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess it would be I spoke about this a bit before, the commitment to industry. We get a lot of people come in. Not only our lecturers are from industry, but they leverage those connections to have people who are currently working in the field talk to us about their work. And, it's very different from our hackers are in a dark room with their hoodies on, looking at things, to seeing what an office is like, how a team works. We call them SOCs, Security Operations Centers, where you really see the kind of team aspect, having, multiple kind of rows of computers with people behind them, each contributing something towards a live response of an issue. That's more into the cyber side than it is the physical security, but we do have those classrooms available to physical security students as well. And and you get to kind of see how it all comes together, and I don't think the movies have done it justice, just how cool it really is.
It sounds very cool. And as you're talking, what I was thinking about was just the fact that there are so many career options here. I mean, you've talked about the cyber side of things, of course, but then there's the physical security, and that extends from everything from an individual building through to, a defence site.
Yeah.
Australian Defence Force site that needs to have its perimeter secured, infrastructure secured, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it just this fascinating field, so real world, and you're really doing good. You're like protecting businesses' assets from the bad guys.
Like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
It's always the main goal.
One of the things about this particular campus, so here we're at Joondalup, a bit outside the city centre. Do you live near here?
I live about an hour away from public transport, public transport.
Are you north or south from here? You and because I think you said you came in here on the train today.
Yeah.
So you to the north or you down?
Yeah, I take the train towards Perth.
Yep. Okay.
So I'm in around the Stirling area.
Okay.
And it's a less than 10-minute walk from Joondalup station. And there's a bus that's free that comes every couple of minutes. Some people like to take that. Getting here is definitely not a problem. Albeit take a little bit of time.
So of course we're talking about people living in Perth. This is you live down towards the city and you're taking the train out. What about for somebody that's never been to Perth before? I'm thinking international students or someone from somewhere else in Australia who might consider moving here in order to come to ECU.
A lot of the people in my course are from other countries. Obviously the Portsmouth students, but also we have ties with universities in Sweden. So we've had a couple of Swedish students come over, and they've really noticed you can't really walk from here to Perth, which is which is very different to how some of their other universities work. But we do have the Joondalup shopping centre. Again, it's next to the station, so less than 10 minutes from here. Have pretty much everything that you need food-wise, supply-wise on campus anyway. So we will often go out to the cities, either just quick car ride or public transport. The public transport here is really good, so I've never really had any complaints with getting from place to place. The only thing is it takes a little bit more time maybe than everything was closer together. I've heard within Portsmouth, you can get from point A to point B across the other side within 10-20 minutes. It's a bit different here, but I've never had that hinder my enjoyment of the campus, especially because here it's a beautiful campus.
It is a beautiful outdoor campus. There's no doubt about it. And we might drop, if you're watching this on video, we might drop in a little bit of the B-roll footage from around the campus because it really is a lovely, lovely space. I mean, some of the other things that I really like about this kind of part of Australia, beach, Hillary's Boat Harbour, the beaches, probably only like 15 minutes away from here on, I believe there's a bus that runs from here down in that direction. So world-class beaches, and of course that's Perth in general, man. Yeah. You're on the west coast of Australia, amazing beaches and sunsets and the like. Lower cost of living than in some of the big eastern capitals, places like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. It's a lot more expensive to live than over here in Perth. Yet Perth has so many opportunities. It's a city that's growing. I just love the pace of life here. It just feels like people are more relaxed.
Yeah, and one thing my dad always said is, you don't have to pay for parking if you go down to the beach as well, which
that's nice.
A big difference, So you kind of just go down there on the weekend. When we lived in Fremantle, we used to do that from time to time. quite often. And yeah, there's a big emphasis on, I have noted that as well. There is a slower pace of life than there is to other countries, which I honestly do kind of miss from time to time. But yeah, I mean, traveling around a lot, I get to experience the best of fast-paced and slow-paced kind of living.
Yeah, exactly. That's a beautiful way to frame it. Yeah, having that opportunity to go and do the dual degree over in England, to go and do a new Colombo Plan funded experience in Japan, and yet day-to-day life here is pretty bloody good in Perth. What about, and this is actually an interesting question that I get quite a bit on the YouTube channel for Choosing Your Uni, job prospects here in Perth. Like, are you aware of what it's like in terms of the cyber industry here and the kind of work that's available?
Yeah, so ECU is actually really good in that aspect. We both have work integrated learners, but also in my case, I'm finding part-time work around my studies. So I'm mainly in the IT space. So actually, if people listening go to a Department of Education or a Catholic education school, chances are I've done some work with that school, either remotely or with talking directly to the Department of Education or Catholic Education of Western Australia. Yeah, and it's really interesting to see how the education institutes, not necessarily the one I went to, but how education institutes actually work from a networking and, I guess, security perspective as well. We do a lot of the multi-factor authentication resets and things when that goes wrong, as you were mentioning before. And yes, so we see government opportunity, we see police opportunity, defense, private. Yeah, I've done, not kind of a session, but I helped out with Retrospect Labs, which was another company that provides cybersecurity training. So I think mainly just because I'm in the cybersecurity field, the scope is so broad that you can really go to just about any industry with IT or cyber knowledge. So I think that's one of the benefits to my course, but I also know ECU in general, even if it's not cyber, they have a really big emphasis on trying to get students out to some kind of industry experience before they graduate. And we have a great outreach team for that. If you go up to them and say, hey, I'm looking for this kind of role in this kind of industry, they can definitely have a look. And whilst obviously there's, I think, no guarantee, it's certainly an advantage to have an ECU background before you head out to industry. And there's also just a lot, it's kind of like a fast track, sometimes you can get not only a position, but you can also learn about what industry you want to go to before you have to fully commit to it.
Hey, Elliott, I've really enjoyed this conversation. What I love about your story, you've been so into this for so long. So, you're talking about going through the hacker competitions that ECU had set up from like year 8 on. For those people who are in high school who maybe haven't found what they're interested in, do you have any tips or advice for things that they might be able to do?
It doesn't feel like that long since I was in high school, and obviously I had a much better idea of what I wanted to do than others. It is a really tough question, because it often feels like a really important decision that you're making at quite a young age. I kind of break it down into the basic philosophical aspect that life is about that kind of learning, and that you're not expected to kind of know exactly what you want to do right from the get-go. At some point, you've just got to kind of look in and say, okay, here's what I know so far. Let me assess my interests at this current time. So what I did, I was quite nerdy. I had an Excel spreadsheet with different courses, different units, and I was kind of rating their appeal to me. Based on that, you don't have to go overboard like I did, because I freaked out even with knowing what I want to do, which course specifically, because obviously there was cyber, there was computer science, there was degrees offered at, University of Western Australia and Curtin. So, I think we've all been in that point where we're really like, this decision seems so important. But maybe my advice is, definitely with ECU, and I'm pretty certain this happens at other universities, switching a course, if you decide last minute it's not right for you, is somewhat easier than you'd expect, especially because a lot of the courses have the same first years. So the counterterrorism degree, the cybercrime degree have the same first year. Computer science and I believe IT have I think it's those two courses have the same first year. So if you decided you wanted to switch or switch major, you possibly don't even lose any time at all. If you do, it's about 6 months time you'll have to do extra to kind of cover up for units that you didn't do. So yeah, definitely reach out to the universities and see what opportunities lie if you suddenly change your mind. But also don't really overcomplicate things either. I think a lot of people think if I choose this degree, I'm suddenly going to end up in an industry that I really hate. There is plenty of time as you go from high school to finishing uni to choosing a degree to kind of get a better understanding. And maybe that is part of the high school experience more than the university experience, is being exposed to the ATAR, or you don't even have to do ATAR, but just to that kind of environment where you see, okay, this is what it's going to be like studying this. If I can't handle the studying now, and be honest with yourself, if this is something that is really not up my alley, it's probably, I guess the way I frame things is, some industries can sound really fascinating, like, oh, you get to be a lawyer, get to do all these cool things. But if you can't actually find the motivation to do the hard things that make that opportunity worthwhile, it's going to be a lot more stressful than it is rewarding. If you find something that is both enjoying, challenging, maybe even interesting at the same time, you feel like you're becoming a more well-rounded person just by being involved in that space, that would be where I tend to go. And
that's excellent. That's excellent advice.
Yeah,
like,
it's really hard, to be honest, because even as I'm saying it now, I'm like, it's not that simple. I remember being there, like, I got all the same advice. It is really hard to pick at that age and with those kind of options. I guess talk about it is probably the thing that helped most. Just not necessarily talking with friends, but talking with the universities themselves. The best people to give you an insight as to what a course is like is the course coordinators. And I actually made my switch from doing just straight cyber to doing the cybercrime and physical by talking to the course coordinator. Not just because I was like, oh, this is an amazing guy, I need to learn from him, but also because he highlighted points that I hadn't yet thought about. Yeah, I don't know. It's a complicated system that we've got here about choosing a course straight out of high school, but I think maybe don't do it over one day. If you're still in high school, you've still got time before you have to ultimately make that choice, and just really think and learn as much as you can about that industry that you're going to.
Knowing what you now know about cybercrime, are there subjects in high school that somebody thinking maybe of doing cybercrime, coming to ECU, that you think would be advantageous for them to take in those kind of final years of school? Or do you really learn everything you need to know once you hit the ground here?
Courses do a great job of covering everything that you need to know. It's not like, oh, I didn't do maths or I didn't do physics or whatever I suppose that's the big difference between university that I didn't realize. You get to kind of choose the content that you bring into an assessment. Me being a physics enthusiast, because part of my travels has also been to Switzerland, where I visited CERN.
Oh, stop. This is amazing.
Yeah, the birthplace of the internet and particle physics as we kind of know it now.
Yeah.
Oh, not the birthplace, but it's a fascinating field. Definitely go there if you get a chance. I choose to bring in that physics to my assessments because, one, it's what I know, but two, because I think it contributes value to the points that I'm saying. Just to give a quick intro about one of the units I did, we had to recommend kinds of security systems, whether that be something that operates on microwave or infrared, electromagnetic radiation, or whether you want to go in more into the real-time feeding of CCTV. You kind of notice that every security system decays over time, and it's really about buying your organization enough time to get to that next point. And physics for me was a great way of explaining the effectiveness of these systems. But other students in my cohort hated math, hated physics. They were like, I came here to write, I came here to understand through a more practical side, a more kind of analytical side. And they chose those angles. So I say it's actually better to find a unit or an ATAR or a subject that you're able to understand, more importantly, communicate to another person. That's going to be your main asset in university.
Elliott, thanks for joining me on the Choosing Uni podcast.
Not a problem.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
At Choosing Your Uni, our mission is to make finding your ideal institution and your degree fun, easy and stress-free. So if you're looking to save some time, to discover more and to get personalised advice for every step of your journey, check out choosingyouruni.com. Our theme music is composed by Pasha Shogi and his band Flow, and this episode has been researched and constructed on Garigal land in Sydney. Until next time, have yourself an awesome day.